Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from Amp Engineering. This will be another installment of the buyer's guide, and for this installment, we've got a very interesting set of vehicles here. So these came out around 2006. A friend of mine had contacted me and said that he found a company that was making toy cars that would have interested me. So this is a Amc Pacer, this is a Ford Pinto. They made a die-cast version of it, and they made a number of tiny die-cast versions of it. But we're not here to talk about these. We're going to focus on these radio control ones. Now, to my knowledge, they made only the Pinto and the Pacer. For the Pinto, they only had a red version and this black version. It was more like a red metallic. For the Pacer, they had a gray one, a red metallic one, this yellow one, and a blue one. I've got the whole lot, as you can imagine. This was the radio. It was very tiny, for tiny hands as these were intended. These are not proportional. They're full left, full right, and there's only one speed forward, one speed back. The Pacer and the Pinto, despite having different bodies, share the same chassis. It also used to have a very, very large front bumper, which I've taken off this car to give it a better look. And they had these kind of larger rear tires, although I think they looked better on the Pacer than they did on the Pinto. Sorry as I go off the stand here, but I wanted to just take a look at the other side of the car. But Motormax was just a distributor. Motormax is actually a company that was out of California. I don't see any information here as to who actually made the thing. Like a lot of the Tycos, for example, this one here. Here it says Tyco RC, made by Tayo in Singapore. So even though it does say Motormax on this car, Motormax was not the company that made it. They simply distributed it in the United States. Let's go ahead and open this up. Now this is brand new in box. So we'll just split that open and pull it out. And now I can get rid of the box after all these years finally. What is this? I don't... Wow. That's interesting. Just a little template telling you how to set the steering, how to work the radio and all that good stuff. You can see all the batteries that it takes. For the Pacer and the Pinto, it did come with a little explanation of the car and all that, which was actually kind of cool. It's probably screwed in. Yes, it is. Unscrewed. And we'll pull the car out. Here is the radio, and then there's the antenna. Another little piece of packaging. What is this? Caution, changes or modification not expressly approved. Huh. So what they're saying is that doing this out of that may have voided the warranty. Well, I'm sure that's okay. So here's just a new version of the radio. I don't know what frequency these are. I genuinely, how interesting. I don't see any notification of frequency on this. That is weird. Does it say anywhere on the box? Let's look here. Oh, 49, there it is right there, okay. So that's 49. I assume that the red one was 27. And for this, I'm just kind of confused. It doesn't say it on the car. I mean, think about it. You've got these two remotes. You know, you have two children. You buy two of these cars, one for each kid, and now they can't tell them apart. There's got to be something I'm completely missing. The FCC IDs on the back are different because I can see a kid saying, "Oh yeah, wait, which remote's which? Oh yeah, mine's the L97 blah blah whatever the hell that is," versus whatever. This is ridiculous. Why wouldn't it say that? Anyway, besides the point, let's take a look at the car. Now, I know these cars really well, both the toy and the real car, as I own a couple. And they've done a pretty good job of the molding of this car. A couple of problems, and this has to do with just the mold itself. The Ford Pinto has a big undercut here on the body. It actually wraps quite a bit under the belt line of the car. And this one here, because of moldability, they couldn't do that. And it's really hard to see on this car because of the bumper, but when you get to this one here, it's a lot more pronounced because this should come down a little bit lower and then wrap up. So I sanded this one down to get a little more of an undercut, but that's pretty minor. Overall, appearance-wise, the car is spot on. Taillights are a little bit inaccurate, and obviously they only pad printed in orange and not in yellow, just to save money because these are all orange, orange, orange. I think those are the same color too. These are definitely built to a price. The chrome's not bad. It's actually quite shiny. The plastic it's showing up about right. You know, it's not particularly shiny. The red one that I used to have was painted. This is just molded. So the red one's a lot shinier than this one here. And the yellow one is the same way, the Pacer. The Pacer is actually, I think, a little bit more matte than the black Pinto is. I suspect that a little bit of polishing would bring this out, but the problem is then you'll potentially polish off the emblem. The Pacer, I think, suffers from the same issues. The back kind of just stops at this level, and you can see that this car's got a front and rear bumper, which I've removed from the Pacer very nicely. So it does improve the appearance. It makes it more susceptible to damage. But I think overall, they did a good job on both of these cars. They don't look, I mean, obviously the Pinto's got the big engine sticking out of the hood, but they look appropriately sized. They don't look that exaggerated, minus the gigantic rear tires, which again, I think fit the Pacer a little bit better than they do the Pinto. Now, I really haven't seen these for sale in years. Even on eBay, you'd think that these would come up a little more often because I think they're only $20 brand new. But I don't know what, maybe they didn't sell as well as I thought. It was really hard to find them when they came out because the stores were just selling out like crazy. Maybe that's just in California, who knows? Let's pull that out. Let's throw some batteries in the car, and I'm going to do that on camera because I want to show a couple of things. This is very much proving what age range these were intended for. Usually there are requirements for children, and one of these is choking hazards. So you have to make sure that the batteries can't just fall out of the car. So this will take either NiCad or alkalines. The radio, I think it's actually going to take 2 AA's as well. Usually these would have a 9-volt battery. Oh, it is a 9-volt battery. Okay, we've got some nickel zinc batteries in there, which are 1.6 volts. There is no on and off indicator for either the remote or the car, which is unfortunate. Perhaps less so for the car, but the remote is odd because there's no power switch at all for the remote, which means it's very likely that you can just put the remote down and put it in the toy box and have it accidentally pushed upward and then just kill the battery. So put the antenna on. The remote it actually feels really good. Obviously my hands are too big, but it has a really good feel. Like, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel cheap. It actually feels a lot nicer than the Tyco 2-stick remote from the mid-80s. There's no creakiness on this. It's pretty nice. Other than the fact that it's kind of chintzy looking, it feels good. Let's turn the car on, and to be honest, if this works, I'll be surprised. Cool. It does work. I'm actually surprised to see it working because the red one that I had worked the first time I took it out, and then I put it away, and a few years later, it was totally dead. Let's drive. I'm actually curious what, I don't know what frequency this is. We'll try and see if we have the frequency for this car as well. That's better. Not bad. I was actually surprised by how quick this thing was. I didn't run the car outside because really the sidewalk, the driveway, they're all too rough for this particular car to be any use on. And I've got an asphalt street, and again, that's just, the cars would be bouncing all over the place. But you know, I've got hardwood floors, and it behaved really well. It spins out nice and easily. It does a nice skid, which is, you know, what every 7-year-old wants to see in a toy car. I don't think it's particularly fast or slow for someone of that age. Now, I was running a nickel zinc battery, which are about 1.6 volts a pop. So if you're running 1.2 volt or 1.15 volt nickel metal hydrides, that you're going to get a significant reduction in speed. So I did test this car out, and this one works fine as well. So perhaps my other car was just an anomaly, I hope, as these both seem to be fully operational still. Now, this is a buyer's guide, so the question is, do you want one? And let's not be silly, of course not. Absolutely not. Who wants this? The collector of RC cars is not going to want one of these. I mean, the only person that's perhaps going to want something like this is someone who likes very scale looking RC cars, and these do both a very good job at looking like a scale radio controlled car. It's a shame that the electronics aren't a little bit better, but still, a collector's not going to want one of these, and someone that wants to drive one of these and someone that is looking to get an RC car to drive isn't going to want one of these. Partly because they're hard to find, and when they come up for sale, I've seen one of these fetch a little over $100, and I don't recall, I'm pretty sure it was used on eBay, and I've never seen one of these come up on eBay. I mean, granted, I'm not there searching every day, but they both appear to be very, very rare. And I suspect it's because early on they were bought, given to children, trashed, and then tossed. The only person that genuinely would like to get one of these is someone that has a Pinto, in particular an early car like 71 through 3, or someone that has an AMC Pacer. Again, they're both very well done cosmetically, and these are 1/16 scale, so they've got a good more mass on them than a 1/18 scale model. Just as a size comparison, I don't have a 1/18 scale version of either of these cars, but I do have something fairly similar to the Pinto, which would be a Mustang 2. This is 1/18 scale, and you can see that there is a significant size difference between the two cars. They should be round about the same width, and what you're looking at here is probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 millimeters narrower on this car. So anyway, this is the buyer's guide that no one ever wanted. I hope you enjoyed it. The next installment featuring this one, won't be this car, but one just like it, will be on the project that I used this as a base and built from there. So folks, thank you all so much for watching. If any of you actually made it this far, I'd be amazed. No one could blame you, and we'll see you next time.